advocated very strongly for that, and we got it. So I went from there to a disability group. I was headhunted to this disability group. Worked there for about a year and a half. Wasn't happy with some of the things that were going on in that organization, and decided that I would leave there. Left there and have been working mainly in that community space. So I've worked in a number of other organizations. All through that, I've maintained my advocacy role at the Ethnic Communities Council and also at disability groups. Eventually ended up working at People with Disabilities WA, where I wrote the state disability strategy for the 2020-2030 years on behalf of the then Minister Stephen Dawson. And then we were ready to launch it, and just as we launched it, COVID hit. And so we took a break for a couple of years, came back, and last year I got involved with rolling out that strategy across the whole of the state. So I've done a lot of traveling in the last 6 months from Newman, Karratha in the north, right down to Esperance, Albany, Denmark, etc. So been traveling everywhere, telling people about the strategy, and that's all on behalf of the current minister, Don Punch. And as of just now, I'll be going into a new position as CEO of the Spiers Centre. And the Spiers Centre is a not-for-profit charity group up in Heathridge. And they do a lot of work in alleviating poverty and assisting people who are homeless and people who are doing it tough. So it is something that I'm looking forward to. It's a challenge. And I continue to maintain my roles at the Ethnic Communities Council, at People with Disabilities Australia, and a number of other disability groups as well.
Very powerful. Congrats on the role first.
Thank you.
And how have your purpose evolved from being a boarding student down in Bangalore and working with PWWA? How has that evolved across the cycle?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one. It's I guess if I look back at what actually built my process, my ethos in life, my purpose in life is my dad's principles. My dad was very, very simple, and he said, look, you abide by these three principles. If you consider society as a totem pole, and you have three levels of society, you have the community, you have your family, and you have yourself. In order of preference, you should always work for your community first, your family second, and yourself last. So the reasoning behind that is if your community is secure and safe, but say something happens to you, you lose your job or you run into some difficulty, you go first to your family, but it's unlikely that your family is going to be able to help you if you're not the person who's there to provide for that. So then you rely on the community. So your community will always be your backup. And if you can rely on your community, then you also have to do work for your community. And part of my reasoning in that also is that in getting involved in disability spaces, about 10 years ago, last October, I went through a 3-week period when I had a heart attack, a quadruple bypass, discovery of a cancer, removal of my stomach, all in 3 weeks. And I had a grade 4 cancer. It was in 21 lymph nodes. It was a go home to die. At best, people expected that I would live 6 months. That's now 10 years ago. And I don't have any impact from it. I am losing my hearing because of the radiotherapy and chemotherapy that I had, but I'm in a position where I understand what it is to deal with a disability, with a condition, and I know that I can actually be able to give back to other people who are dealing in that space.